In the previous video, we looked at our brush tool and how to work with our brush tool. In this video, we'll be looking at artboards and layers. Let's jump right in. So remember I said, let's go back to our file and click on new for a new document. Remember I said that we can work with artboards. So let's do that here and rename this to artboards. Let's go all the way down to create and click on create. Now, you can see here that it says artboard 1. And you can come over here to the layer panel, double click in here to rename it. So let's say our first artboard, right? And as you can see, once we have our artboard selected, we double click. You can simply click on a plus, and that creates another board on top of it. You click here. We have another board over there. Let's use our hand to move around our canvas. Remember that. Let's go back to our artboard. Click here. If you hold down, those are the two tools that we have in this section. We have our move tool and our artboard tool. So let's click on our artboard again. And here we can click on this. And here we have different artboards selected. And move this down. And you can see that we've created 4 different artboards. So let's come back in here and same thing, we double click to rename our second artboard. And the same thing applies to the other ones. You can minimize the artboard or open it. You can turn it off. Let's do this, turn them off, and turn them back on by clicking on the eye icon. You can click on an artboard and delete. Let's delete the second one. So now we have our first artboard and our second artboard. So let's also use our hand tool to bring this down. And in this case, we clicked on the artboard option when we were creating the document. But what if we already have created a document and we didn't select that option? How do we create an artboard? Let's go into our first document. And that's where this tool comes into play. And click on artboard. We can come in here. Let's make sure that we move this. Use our hand to reduce that. Use our hand tool. Let's move this all the way here. Now let's select our artboard tool. Now make sure that you select all of this page, this canvas. So let's go all the way and make that selection. And you can see now that it has created an artboard for us. And click on that. And now we have the option to again add an artboard. Do the same thing here, add an artboard. Come back down here again, add an artboard. And again, same thing applies. We can turn them off or we can turn them back on. We can multiple select them and delete them. Let's go back to our move tool, hold down, and hold our move. Let's come all the way to hand and bring this back to our center. So this is how to create artboards and work with different artboards. You can create multiple artboards within the same document. So you don't have to create one document for one page, another document for another page. You can use artboards. So let's look at our layer panel. And the layer panel is an upgrade from what we have in Canva, where we have more options to work with. So now we only have our background. So let's create shapes and add a text box. So let's bring in a shape here. Let's change our color, our fill color. Let's make this red. And let's bring in another shape. Let's select this and make sure that we're adjusting the color for this one. Once you double select, it would give you the, once you double select an element, it will give you the show transform controls. And that's why you usually need to lock it here. So you click here to lock it in again so that you can come back here and move it around. Let's go back to our layers panel. And now you can see our layers. We have 1, we have 2. Now here we can add effects. Can come in here. We can add a stroke, inner shadow, bevel and emboss, or just open our blending options panel. And as you can see here, we have more options. We have our bevel and emboss again. We have our stroke. We have our color overlay. So you can select the layer. Let's turn this off for now. You can select the layer, come into color overlay, and change the color. Right? And this applies to any layer. So it could be an image. Let me demonstrate that using our image. Let's go into our file manager and bring in our image again. Can reduce the size here. Gives us a smart objects. Bring this here. And the same way, we can go in here, go into our FX, go into our blending mode, turn that off, let's bring it back on, and select color overlay. And you can see that it overloads that entire image. So whatever layer you select, you can apply all these different effects to. Let's turn that off and cancel that. Again, we can come in here and turn off the layer, turn it back on, turn it off, turn it back on. We can lock a layer. And once a layer is locked, you see an icon here that shows that it is locked. And once a layer is locked, you can't come in here and move it around anymore. So in case you want to have something in place, you can lock the layer. And to unlock it, you can simply just click on that icon or click here again. You can also adjust the opacity. So see our opacity here. We can move this around to reduce the opacity of that layer. Can increase the opacity again. Now we've already looked at creating a layer mask, and we've already looked at creating a new layer and deleting layers as well. We can come here and make adjustments. So remember the adjustments that we made in here. We can come here and click there to make adjustments to our layer. And finally, we have blending modes. We're not going into details with this, but I just want to show you all of that. So we have our different blending modes. You can see that it blends with the elements behind it. So we have layer on top of layer on top of layer, and we want to blend them. So we come in here and you can see the different effects: darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, dark, and we have our screen, lighting, color dodge. You can see our different effects. So this is your layer panel. If you come into Photoshop and you can't find any of these layers here, what you need to do is go to your windows and make sure that it is selected. So let's go to our window over here, and you can see all these different panels here. If you click on layers, it pops that open. Let's go back and click on our properties, make sure that our properties is selected. Oh, that was shapes. Let's turn that off. Let's go here, go into our window, click on our properties. We already have that open, but if we didn't, it would open that for us so that we can work with our properties now. And everything here you can move around. So that's the final thing we'll talk about. You can click and drag and move this up. You can move your layer panel to the bottom. You can move this all the way here as well. Let's move it into that section. But you can also move it out and open it. You can move it here, and you can move it back. So this will lead us to our workspaces. So let's go into window and let's click into workspace. And you can see that we have different workspaces. Now, Photoshop can be used for different things: photo editing, design, and even more detailed editing, illustration, painting, all of that. So if we change our workspace, it gives us the tools that are essential for that task. So let's go into painting, and you notice that your panels change. You have similar tools here. Let's go into graphic, and let's go into graphic and web. And again, you see that our workspace changes. Just clicking again, let's go into our workspace and go into painting. Let's go into our workspace and go into photography. You see that our workspace changes again. And let's go back into our essentials. Now, you can also create your own workspace. Remember, I was showing you how to move things around just now. So let's say you want your properties to be here, you want your path to be here, or you don't even want your path. Let's say, let's remove this one. Let's bring out our shape. Let's bring it here and let's delete it. This is our history. Let's bring it here. Let's bring our adjustment here as well. And say every time you come into Photoshop to work, this is what you want your workspace to look like. You can save this. So we go to our window, go into our workspace again, and you can see here, new workspace. If you click on new workspace, you can name your workspace. So let's say my space. Let's make sure our menus and toolbar are selected. So save. And now let's go back to, say, photography. So we have that change. And let's go back to my space. So now you have your space. You can also delete that workspace. So let's come in here. To delete a workspace, you have to be on another workspace. So if we select photography again, let's go into window and go to workspace and say delete workspace. It gives us the option to select the workspace we want to delete, so my space, and we can delete that workspace. So now when you come in here, your workspace is no longer available and you can create a new one. Go with the essentials, and let's come in here and set this back to default. Reset essentials. Awesome. So in this video, we've covered our artboards, we've covered our layer panel, we've talked about our workspace and how to move things around the way you want them to look. In the next videos, we'll be talking about Adobe Illustrator and going into how to work with that tool